Welcome to Changing Minds with your host, King of the Broad-Minded Thinkers, Daryl Davis. Presenting guests with original thought-provoking content, bringing you wider perspectives on things you know, and challenging you with information you've never considered. Tired of the same old, same old? This is the place to be.
Changing Minds.
Welcome to Changing Minds. I'm your host, Daryl Davis. Brian Karem is a fellow author and fellow musician, but his main gig today is White House correspondent reporter for Playboy magazine and CNN contributor. He's a top-notch reporter dedicated to getting the facts and upholding the code of ethics in journalism. This code of ethics led to him winning the National Press Club Award and also got him arrested and jailed for not breaking the ethical code. Brian has become widely known for his not backing down to those who attempt to shut him down and those who provide false answers to his questions. His confrontations with President George H.W. Bush, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, Presidential Assistant Sebastian Gorka, and President Donald Trump have become epic. Keeping people on point, which he's going to do with me right now, is one of his many strong suits. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thanks for having me, man. Good to be here.
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate you coming on. And let's start right now. You got an award for keeping
my mouth shut.
For keeping your mouth shut, and at the same time, you got arrested for that.
Yes, I did.
How does that work?
That's a good question. I've got to figure that one out. I'll get back to you when I know. The National Press Club gave me their Freedom of Press Award because I went to jail 4 times because I had a confidential source, and I kept the source confidential. And that went all the way up to the Supreme Court. There was long story short, there was a shooting in San Antonio on the northeast side, considered the good side of the city. And it was a cop that was killed, and it was 2 young Hispanic brothers who were involved. They were supposedly on the wrong end of town at the wrong time of day. The police decided they were going to extract a little street justice. I got an interview with him, and through the help of a couple other people, and did some investigating, found out that the cop was under the influence of cocaine and heroin, and he had been speedballing at the time of the confrontation. So when the 2 kids said that they were fighting for their life and it was self-defense, maybe it was true. So that was... since I had those sources and wouldn't give them up, that's why I went to jail. Otherwise, I'm just and they gave me an award for doing it. So that's the long story short.
How long were you held in jail?
I was there 4 times overnight. The first 3 times. The last time was a couple of weeks.
And so the National Press Club awarded you for keeping that ethical code of not revealing sources.
Yes, they did indeed.
Well, great. Now, since that time, you've now worked for CNN and Playboy magazine. How long have you been with Playboy?
I've been working with Playboy off and on since the 90s. I interviewed a lot of folks for Playboy, and G. Gordon Liddy and James Carville and his wife Mary Madeline, and did a piece on the sniper. I've done quite a bit of work for them over the years. Did an investigative piece on the FAA. So it's ongoing relationship. They've always been very good to me. Very good place to put good prose.
So did you have personal contact with Hugh and Christy?
Well, not since he's died. If I had contact with him now, I could really make some money. But
I'm telling you what. But back when he was living.
Yeah. They're a good group of people. I've worked with for years their editorial staff, and Hefner had always respected literacy and education and good journalism. So it's a good place to be.
Right. And have things changed much with Christy at the helm?
Well, she's gone too, and they sold the company, and the new company is dedicated to the same proposition because they defended me when Trump tried to yank my press pass. So they're very strong supporting the First Amendment. So really good to have them there.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about these episodes that have become legendary and causing President Trump to to yank your press pass and you having to go and sue the U.S. government and sue the White House to get your press pass back.
Yes, there's nothing more fun than looking at a piece of, and I'm looking at it right now, this wonderful piece of legal activity in United States District Court for the District of Columbia, Brian J. Karem plaintiff versus Donald J. Trump defendant. I never thought I'd see that in my life, but there it is.
But you won. You won.
Yeah. He yanked my press pass. I sued him. I won. They appealed. They heard the appeal last week of March, and I think we got a good shot at winning it on appeal.
Well, let's go back a little further. Before Donald Trump, you had a slight run-in with George H.W. Bush, the first President Bush. What was that all about?
I was at a Drug Summit News Conference in San Antonio. 7 presidents from the Western Hemisphere were getting together to tell us all about how the scourge of drugs was over, the war on drugs was won, and we won. So I got up to ask a question. I asked, I've spent 4 years working, covering the DEA. Your DEA agents out in the field, your frontline defenders on the war on drugs, don't think that the war on drugs can be won. They consider it a joke. They consider this Drug Summit News Conference a joke. And they consider the president's meeting here a joke. What do you tell your frontline defenders in the war on drugs if you want to let them know it's no joke? He wouldn't answer it. The president from Mexico answered it. I was told, hey, way to go. Good job. You got to get in there. He told me to sit down. I wouldn't sit down. I kept asking questions.
Who told you to sit down?
Bush.
President Bush, okay.
Yeah. So the next day I was told I did a really good job. And then the next day I was told I did a really bad job and that they were going to have to fire me. So next thing you know, I see my old buddy Sam Donaldson showing up on my doorstep interviewing me. And that's how I ended up in Washington, D.C. Got a job offer out of that working for America's Most Wanted because they had a real need for an arrogant, obnoxious investigative reporter.
And that's your moniker now, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, according to Donald Trump, it's just loudmouth showboat, but I'll take that too.
Okay. Well, what about with Sarah Huckabee Sanders?
She came out. My first run-in with her was barely 6 months into this presidency, and it was very, very tough on a daily basis, going to those briefings and listening to them just rattle on about the press and how we're the problem, blah, blah, blah. So then one day she comes out and she says, you're all fake media. So I want you to watch this video, which was fake. And it hadn't been vetted. She just said, if it's true. So I said, enough of this nonsense. I said, we're stuck with you for 4 years. If somebody didn't like what they read or see or hear, they can turn the channel or get a different newspaper. So back off. And we're just all trying to do our job. That was the first time anybody gave that administration any substantial pushback. And I've just been pushing back against them for 3 years.
And do you think that she actually believed a lot of the things that she was saying, or was she just towing the line for Donald Trump, or what was the story there?
Well, like I said, I've met her. I can get along with her off camera. She's personable. She's nice. She's a mother. She's got kids. But yeah, I think she drank the Kool-Aid at some point in time. And I think she thought her job was to defend that president. And she also thought that what he was saying was true. So it's tough.
What about Kellyanne Conway?
Well, like I said, she's a barracuda. I don't think she believes anything she says, even after she says it. She likes to argue. She went to law school. She probably did well in speech and debate. She loves debate, but she's as disingenuous a human being as I've ever met in my life.
So you say you wouldn't get along with her off camera?
I don't get along with her on or off camera. We were on a show together 20 years ago, and I'll never forget that. She was Kellyanne Fitzpatrick at the time. She wasn't married, and we were both doing a show in Philadelphia, and I was there talking about a book I'd written, Spin Control, and she was there spinning and defending Dan Quayle. And she said, what a great guy he was. And then when we went into the commercial break, she said, what a horrible guy he was. And when I pointed out that when we came back from the commercial break, she got upset with me, and I'm sorry, but you can't play that game. It's a disingenuous game, and people think you're being genuine and you're not, and you need to be pointed out when you're not being genuine, especially those who wield the power in D.C.
Now, we're talking about George W. Bush a moment ago and the war on drugs. What was the story about Bush being in cahoots with Manuel Noriega and allowing drugs to come into our country?
That's H.W., the first one. Right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Pardon me, my mistake. George H.W. Bush, yes.
Well, he was head of the CIA, and he had those connections for years. The CIA it's been proven pretty much that the CIA, to make some money to fund some projects, dealt in drugs and sold them to, sold them in L.A. and sold them in California. California, Florida, Texas, areas like that, mostly in lower middle class and lower class communities. So that they did that, and that's been pretty well proven.
And how many presidents have you covered in your reporting career?
Well, I missed Washington. Adams was a nice guy. Washington, I heard he was a bit of a prick. He had those wooden teeth that smelled. Everybody since Reagan. Reagan was the first one I ever covered. I've interviewed or asked questions of all of them, and it was they're all of them until this one. Even if I did not like their politics, I could get along with them personally.
Well, let's start with Reagan then, and give me a synopsis of each one in succession.
All right. Well, Reagan had a lot of criminals in his White House. A lot of people that got convicted, and he was there was a lot of corruption there. But he was a personable guy. The story I always tell, when I met him, I was up in upper press. The Secret Service was sweeping through because POTUS, the president, had decided to move. And so I had to get out of upper press. And I tripped and fell. I was a young kid. I tripped and fell. And next thing you know, I'm laying there on the ground, and there's the president of the United States, Ronald Reagan, standing right over me. And he goes, "Well, young fella, you don't have to bow before me." And so I got up, and he was, friendly. George Herbert Walker Bush George H.W. Bush was described by Hunter Thompson as being a mean-spirited wimp. And I agree with that. I never got along with him. I never got along with Marlin Fitzwater or any of the people in his administration. Clinton was a policy wonk. He could be kind of cold and aloof, but at the same time, he could be friendly. But first time I interviewed him was during the Super Tuesday era, right before Super Tuesday, and he was in Texas. And I was interviewing him about national policy, and he started talking to me about the Edwards Aquifer, which was the water supply for San Antonio, and he had it backwards and forwards. This guy knew. He was a traditional nerd, policy wonk, head full of facts and figures, knew what he was doing, would listen to anybody, but was really smart. George W. Bush was the governor of Texas for a while, was known as a big party boy, and they called him George the Lesser, or as one of them called him, Shrub Bush. He was not the sharpest tool in the shed, and I considered him, until Donald Trump, the worst president we ever had, which is funny because I considered Reagan the worst president we ever had until Bush. I considered Bush the worst we ever had until we had Trump. But Reagan and Bush, you could at least get along with both of them. Obama was friendly. But Obama was also, everyone accused him of being a bit of an elitist, and he could be, but he was at least friendly in the times that I ran across him. This guy is just, he's like your drunk Uncle Bob at a neighborhood barbecue who's had too much to drink. You got to get him out of there before he vomits on everybody's shoes and starts picking fights.
You're talking about Trump. Okay.
Yeah. The current guy is that guy. He's going to get drunk and pick a fight with somebody.
Well, I just saw him and you picking a fight with each other the other day, and he kept telling you to be quiet or he was going to leave. What was,
Yeah,
what was that all about?
I asked him if he really loved his wife. No, I was trying to ask him about the test for coronavirus and social distancing. I traveled across the country for a week and interviewed a lot of people, and I saw a lot of people not doing social distancing. And I couldn't find these so-called tests that anybody could get. Couldn't find them anywhere. There are people that just couldn't get tested. That was kind of annoying. And so I wanted to ask that question. I started to ask people about people not getting tests. And these people are saying, well, I'm not social distancing because I look at these briefings in the White House and there's 10 people up on stage. They're not social distancing. So why should I? Bottom line question of the president was, what do you tell these millions of people who think you have no credibility, that you're just lying? But he wouldn't let me get there, wouldn't let me finish the question. Then finally he said he was going to walk out on me. He was going to take his ball and go home, which I've never had happen before. I honestly have never had anybody I've interviewed say they were going to pick up their ball and go home. That's the most juvenile behavior I've ever seen out of anyone at any point in time.
Well, how do you get along? You mentioned his wife. How do you get along with Melania, or do you know her?
I have only seen her a few times. I wouldn't know enough to say.
Mm-hmm. And you had a legendary, epic confrontation with President Trump's assistant, Sebastian Gorka.
Yeah, I didn't really even know who he was. He tries to pick fights with me on Facebook and Twitter all the time, and I just can't be bothered. You know, I'm there to cover the president, not some guy who sells fish oil. He came over. It was on, I think it was a social media event at the White House, and I had asked the president to stay and take a few questions. His guest got pissy and said he's already talked to the real press. Oh, poor baby, are you going to cry now? And I was like, I said, this crowd looks eager to be demonically possessed. And I think I gave my little ride. Oh, I'm telling you, little Rodney. Hey. So then it got a laugh, but Gorka came over and got pissy about it. And I said, hey, look, we can talk here. We can go outside and talk all day long. What do you want to do? So he said I was threatening to kick his ass, and he got pissy. And the next thing you know, there's a whole row, and they tried to they yank my press pass. I sued and got it back, and they appealed. I still have my press pass. They're still appealing, and we'll see what happens. But I think we got a good shot in the appeals court. Now,
we've never really experienced a president who says all the kinds of things that Donald Trump has said, and then
thank God for that.
And then the next day changes them.
Well, you don't even have to wait a day, Daryl. I mean, just give it 30 seconds. I believe it's a hoax. Look, I'm the guy who's always said it wasn't a hoax. I believe I was calling it a pandemic before anybody else was. What a hoax, these damn Democrats. And it's like watching, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It is surreal. I have never seen anything like this in my life from any president.
Okay,
ever.
Now you said that Kellyanne doesn't believe half the stuff she says.
I don't believe she believes anything she says.
Okay, well, what about Donald Trump? Does he believe it?
I don't think he remembers what he said from 30 seconds ago much. I think he believes the best liars actually believe their lies. He's not a very good liar.
Well, he's been accused of being a narcissist. He's been accused of being a racist. He's been accused of a lot of things. What is your take on him? Is he a narcissist? Is he a racist?
He's a pain in the ass. He's a liar. He's a narcissist. Whether or not he's a racist is irrelevant because he embraces racist. So if he wants to come out and say, hey, I'm not a racist, I'm an equal opportunity offender, I'm a misanthrope, I don't care. He is, the actions he takes are those of a racist. David Duke, the KKK, they back him. They've come out of the woodwork. All the weirdos have come out of the woodwork to support this guy. His whole voting base is an amalgamation of people who were always picked last for kickball. They're still wearing their short pants. They're still upset because they either believe they have white privilege and it's being taken away from them, or they're true racists, or they feel like they're QAnon supporters and flat Earth. I mean, I've seen a group of people in the East Wing the night that I remember specifically was the night he was celebrating his exoneration, or as he called it, exoneration in the Senate, when they didn't, go through and find him guilty of impeachment, and they let him off. And there's this whole crowd of people, and he played it like a game show. And, like he was, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. And the people in the audience were misanthropes, they were misogynists, there was a QAnon supporter, there were people there who didn't believe in public education, there were people there, it's just all the fringe elements of society found that they have one thing in common: Donald Trump.
And what's your take on Stephen Miller in the White House?
He is a white supremacist who's afraid of his own shadow. I remember walking up to him one time and tapping him on the back, say, hey, how you doing? And he turned around, what? And I said, hey, I'm just saying, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Nice day. The president is cloaked in immense power, he told me. I go, what do I care? I was just saying hello. I wasn't asking you a question. I don't care what you think. I was just being polite, saying hello.
What about Steve Bannon?
I think he's a dangerous man. There, I said it without cursing.
In what regard?
I don't know. I think Bannon is the guy who was the architect behind, tear it all down. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to tear it all down. I think he tried to do it with Brexit. I think he tried to do it here. I think he is a frightening man because he is bright, manipulative, and cunning, but he's apparently soulless.
All right. Well, has there been anybody that you have not interviewed, still living, who you would like to put on your bucket list?
The Dalai Lama, I'd love to sit down and talk to for a while. I think it'd be fun to. But like I said before, I like musicians and comics. So, one of the ones I always wanted to interview was Richard Pryor. I missed him. Didn't get a chance to. Chuck Berry, John Lennon. I did get a chance to talk to a couple of the Rolling Stones. So, that was all right. That's been fun. Buddy Holly would have been fun to talk to, I think. But that was, he died before I was born.
February 3rd, 1959.
Yeah, the day the music died.
Mm-hmm.
The funniest part of that was my dad was dying of cancer, and he knew I was into music, and I played and was playing, and I wasn't in a band at the time, but I had been, and Pop was talking, and I found out that he was this huge Buddy Holly fan, and I was a huge Buddy Holly fan, and I always thought he was a big Elvis fan, and he goes, "No, I hated the guy." And I said, "Well, you look just like him." He goes, "Why do you think I hated him so much?" But he didn't he thought Elvis was packaged and pre-plastic. And
Elvis was real. I loved Elvis.
He didn't. He liked Buddy Holly, and I was a big Buddy Holly fan.
Sure.
I think I like Elvis, the younger Elvis, mm-hmm. before the pantsuits and the karate and the
Las Vegas.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I think early Elvis was the rockabilly Elvis. I liked a lot.
Well, I had the great pleasure of playing with Chuck Berry on and off for about 32 years.
Yeah, I know. I know.
What a great person. I wish you would let me know that. I would have arranged that for you.
Yeah, I would have loved to.
But I was on a judge, a talent thing as a judge, and Richard Pryor's daughter, Rain Pryor, was on there with me. And she looks just like the man.
Yeah, I know. Richard Pryor with breasts.
Yeah, there you go. Now, who would you say is the most interesting person you've interviewed? Doesn't have to be.
I told you before. I think you're one of them.
Oh, come on.
I do. I like some of our conversations have been very good. I like what you do and how you do it. I like people that. It's not necessarily even celebrities. Most of the time I don't like interviewing celebrities because some people are so damn full of themselves, and it's hard to get to who they really are. And they're afraid to let their guard down because, they've cultivated an image. They're trying to make money off the image. They've got a lot of people depending on them to make money off the image. And at some point in time, they cease being a real human being and just become a product. And it's hard to to get through that. And politicians do the same thing. So when you can talk to someone and find the essence of who they are and really speak with them and get to that nut graph and unlock who those people are, that to me are the most interesting people to interview.
Well, you're quite interesting yourself, and you have written 6 or 7 books now. Do you have anything that you're working on currently, a new book?
Yeah, I'm working on something with the president and the press. Almost done with it, but I think it's called Free the Press, and it's the problems that we have with the lack of free press in this country. Reporters Without Borders cites us as being we rank 45th now of all nations among the free press, which is not very good. Middle of the road, danger area. I think the Ukraine is freer than we are, but we're right in that troubled area, and it's difficult for me as a reporter to keep doing this and not let people know why it is in the situation it is. So that's the goal of the book, is to try and educate people a little bit about, and to tell a couple of funny stories in the process. You laugh, you cry, you have everything.
Do you ever feel threatened, or have you ever been threatened?
Oh, yeah. Not only have I felt threatened, I've actually been threatened. I had someone bash out the window of my car here after Trump, was elected. I've had numerous threats on Facebook and Twitter. Had a few anonymous phone calls. The funniest one was one guy. He got me. I have to admit, I was pissed off that day anyway. So he calls me up and he threatens to kill me. And I go, "You're not going to kill me." He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to kill you. You libtard, fake media, enemy of the people," just spouting all this shit out that, he's heard from wherever. And I said, "You're not going to kill me." I said, "Right now, you're sitting in your mother's basement. You're eating Cheetos. You're overweight. You haven't had a job in 3 or 4 years. No girls like you. You're pale. You're pasty faced, and you wonder why the world is passing you by." And there was a long silence on the end of the phone. And then I hear, "You're mean." And I go, I'm mean? You called me up and threatened to kill me, and I'm mean? Hey, I got something for you. He goes, "What?" I go, "Go F yourself." And I hung up on him. So, some of them you don't take too seriously. The ones you take seriously are the ones that don't call you. If some of those have been, frightening.
Well, yeah. No one's going to call you in advance and be serious to tell you they're going to kill you.
"I'm coming over to kill you. Could I make an appointment at 6? "No, I'm a little busy right now. Make it 6:30.
Well, let me ask you 2 more questions here. One, who were your influences as far as reporters? Who did you aspire to?
That's a good question. H.L. Mencken growing up was an inspiration. Hunter Thompson was an inspiration. John Reed was an inspiration. There were numerous other writers that were not journalists that were inspirational to me. Isaac Asimov. There was a couple of comedians that were inspirational to me as well. And then the Courier-Journal Louisville Times, which was a family-owned newspaper for years, run by the Bingham family, was inspirational in how to run a newspaper. They were one of the top 10 newspapers for years until his death, and they sold it to Gannett and turned it into a damn shopper. I really found those people to be inspirational to me.
So you're from Louisville, Kentucky, right?
Yep.
Well, I got to ask the question. Did you ever meet Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay?
Yes, I did. He was.
I did as well.
He was I went when I was 9. My dad got me involved in boxing, the Louisville Police Athletic League. So I'm a 9-year-old kid, and I'm, mixing it up, learning to box. And one day, the guy who operated the gym said he wanted to introduce us to one of his former students who had gone on to boxing fame. And so we didn't know who it was going to be. In walks Muhammad Ali, the champ. We all got our picture taken with him, and we all got to get in the ring with him for a round and shadow boxing. And so one of my favorite bits from Richard Pryor was he said he got in a ring with Muhammad Ali one time, and he goes, he's so fast you don't see his punches till they're coming back, which is true. And I at 9-year-old, I was like shocked. And one of his legs was as big around as I was. I mean, he was a big man, And he was joking, and Richard Pryor said, and I felt proud. And then he said, "What if he has one of those Joe Frazier flashbacks? Round 11, Joe Frazier, bing!" And he said one of his punches would give me brain damage. And I was kind of feeling that, and he started rhyming with me. He started, white boy's pretty, white boy's clean. Look at me though, I'm the champ. I'm mean, and I'm mean. And I was like, I'm gonna die. But I felt so proud to be in the ring with him. And then we all got pictures taken with him afterwards. And he was actually, there's a picture I have that even means more to me than that. The very first trophy that Muhammad Ali ever won, boxing, was the Louis Karam Award for Golden Gloves in Louisville, given to him by my cousin, named for my cousin. And we all helped him. My grandfather helped him get out of Louisville so he wouldn't be used by there were a lot of Southern boys who wanted to use him. And my grandfather helped him get out of there. And so so he was always close in my heart. When I grew up, as I was growing up, I would see him out in the world with the Beatles or in Zaire or wherever he went. And I knew the Louisville Lip was, I just always floored me that I could come. And you got to understand, growing up in Louisville, you think it's pretty much nowhere. Although there has been a lot of famous people come out of Louisville, and there's been a lot of good come out of Louisville. You don't grow up thinking that you're in the hub of, like New York City or Washington, D.C. You're in Louisville, Kentucky. So,
bluegrass country.
Yeah. I always thought Muhammad Ali was always in my mind growing up as if you can, you can make it coming from Louisville. You can make something of yourself. He did, and he ruled the world. And so he was always an inspiration and a mentor to me.
Wonderful. Well, on that note, I'm going to thank you very much, Brian Karam, for spending time with me on Changing Minds.
Anytime.
I appreciate it. Well, we will definitely do it again.
All righty.
Thank you, Brian. I'm your host, Daryl Davis. We'll see you next time on
Changing Minds.